Hey guys, it's Keeley, and today I'm going to be doing my June wrap-up. I had the best reading month I have ever had in my entire life. I read 17 books, and they were pretty good sized books too. So enjoyable. There were a ton of 5 stars, and sorry if I don't go into too much depth with these right now because I don't want this video to be like 20 minutes long. So if you want me to do a review over any one of these books, just let me know down in the comments and I will be happy to do one for you. But let's just get into this so it's not too long, and yeah. The first book I read in the month of June was The Lost and Found by Katrina Leno. This is an amazing book that comes out July 5th, so you definitely should go order it. I will leave my review down below. Yes, I actually did a review, so I won't say too much about this right now, so you can go check out the review and all my thoughts on it. But it was absolutely amazing, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I really want everyone to read this because it is just such a good book. Definitely go check out my review so you know what it's all about and all my thoughts, and yeah. The next book that I read in the month of June was Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This is book 1 in the Dark Artifices trilogy, and I absolutely loved it. It is massive, but I read it in like 2 days. It just flew by, and I absolutely loved it so much. All the characters in here are so amazing, and I just loved getting to know different characters that we haven't really seen before, and also getting to see the old characters that we all know and love. And I'm very excited to see where this trilogy, I think it's a trilogy, I'm very excited to see where it's going because it left off on a sad cliffhanger note, kind of exciting. I don't know, I just want to know what's happening because so many emotions. But yeah, I definitely gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, I finally got to The Son of Neptune by Rick Riordan. This is book 2 in the Heroes of Olympus series, and I loved it so much. I think it was my least favorite though, just because like the premise, like I really liked it, but it was just like I missed all the other people that I love. Like I don't want to say too much about it because it is a sequel, but I still gave it 5 out of 5 stars because Rick Riordan, Greek mythology, Percy Jackson, like I am there for that, and I loved it. And this series, so good. It was a good sequel, but it wasn't my favorite, but I still loved it. 5 out of 5. Okay, yeah. The next book I randomly picked up is Reboot by Amy Tintera. This is a really interesting storyline. It is a dystopian where in this world people come back to life after they die, and usually it's only good if the teenagers do that because they're able to control them, and so the people who come back to life are called reboots. And in this world, the reboots are kind of slaves because people are scared of them. And it follows a girl named Ren who was dead for 178 minutes, which is like the longest death that they've known. They didn't think that she was going to reboot, but she did. And the longer you're dead, the less human you are and the less emotional you are. And it was just, it was so amazing. So fast paced. And I really loved Ren and like the character development in here. It was so good, and I definitely recommend it. I think the series is majorly underhyped on BookTube. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up is Ciders by Neil Shusterman. This follows a boy named Talon who lives in the downside. He lives underneath New York City, and when something happens and he meets a topsider, and both of their worlds kind of crash and everything just starts going crazy, and I thought it was very enjoyable. There is another book that is kind of similar to this storyline, so I couldn't get into this one as much because I love the other one so very much, but I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I love Neil Shusterman. I love his writing and his imagination. He is one of my favorite authors, so of course I will like anything he writes, but this is probably my least favorite that I've read of his so far, but nonetheless it was still enjoyable. The next book I read was Rebel by Amy Tintera. This is the sequel and the finale to the Reboot duology, and it was equally as amazing. I honestly can't tell you which one I liked more. Like, this did not have second book syndrome at all. It was so fast-paced once again, and I loved it so much. And Amy Tintera, she is such an amazing writer, and everything she came up with in this. I will say the relationship in here reminded me so much of Katniss and Peeta, which I absolutely loved. I had no problem with the similarities in the relationship, but yeah, I very much love the character development and the storyline. It was amazing. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars as well. The next book I read was The Mark of Athena by Rick Riordan. This is the third book in the Heroes of Olympus series, and I absolutely loved it. All I can say is it pretty much, one of the main focuses is Annabeth, and Annabeth is just such a brilliant character. Obviously, daughter of Athena and all, whatever, but she's just so amazing, and all the characters in here are very, very amazing, and I really enjoyed all of them and all of their storylines. Can't say too much because it is the third book in a series, but I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Life and Death by Stephanie Meyer. This is Twilight reimagined, so it's all gender swapped, and it was kind of difficult to follow along just because I was so sucked in to the original Twilight story and trying to follow along with who was supposed to be who, and I know you shouldn't do that and like compare the characters because they're completely gender swapped, but still I would hear a name and try to figure out who it was in Twilight, so it would just get me really sidetracked. But the ending in this book is different than Twilight, which I really loved, and I loved the whole new take on it, and so by the ending it became its own story and different from Twilight, and that's what made me give it a 3 out of 5 stars instead of a 2 out of 5 stars, because the ending was so good, and I love this world so much, and after reading this I just got sucked back into the world of Twilight, and I marathoned all the movies this month, and I just really love Twilight. Like, try hard till I die, let me tell you. The next book I read was The Gospel of Winter by Brendan Keeley, and I picked this one up because his last name is my first name, and I'm going to get to meet him in October, and this story is very hard to explain. It follows this boy, and he's just really having trouble with his life, and he just gets mixed up with the wrong people. That's all I can really say about it because it's so spoilery to describe it. But I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. It was very dark, and don't get me wrong, I love my dark realistic fiction, but this one was just like one of those that puts a damper on your mood when you read it. But it was my first Brendan Keeley book, but that's not going to turn me away from reading his other books. But yeah, 2 out of 5 stars. Didn't love it, didn't hate it, you know. The next book I read was The House of Hades by Rick Riordan. This is book 4 in the Heroes of Olympus series, and it is my favorite book out of all the Heroes of Olympus books. It was so good, and the setting of this book is so very interesting because it's not like anything we've seen before. I can't really describe it once again because spoilers, it is the 4th book in a series, but let me just tell you, I absolutely loved it. I still love the characters so much, and I just got so attached to certain characters that I hadn't really read about before. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read has been on my shelf for quite a while, and I finally picked it up, and that is The 100 by Cass Morgan. This is a TV show, and a lot of people do not know that it's also a book series, and I have never seen the TV show. But this is like a dystopian world where the people live in space because the Earth has been contaminated with like radioactive, like poison type things, you know what I'm saying? And so in space there's these criminals in prison that are teenagers mostly, so they decide to send 100 prisoners down on Earth to see if it's safe for them to live because things are getting kind of crowded in space. And it was really good. I did give this 4 out of 5 stars instead of 5 just because the relationships in this book are very wishy-washy and it got kind of annoying, but otherwise the plot was amazing and the characters were so great, and I'm really interested to see where the rest of the series go because it left off on a cliffhanger and I need to know what happens. The next book I read has been all the rage on BookTube this year, and that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is like set in the same world as the Grisha trilogy, and it is a heist story, which I hadn't really been interested in because heists aren't that interesting to me. Like, I had never read a heist story, so I really didn't know what to expect. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I personally did not enjoy it as much as the Grisha trilogy, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. The reason it was 4 instead of 5 stars is just because I didn't get into it as much, and it didn't have that wow factor until like a quarter of the way like left of the book. The last quarter was amazing and intense, and I need to know what happens in the next book because like cliffhanger, what's up with authors and these cliffhangers? I don't know, but it was so good, and like some of the characters in here I absolutely love, and like awesome female characters. It was just really good, and I cannot wait for the sequel. The next book I read was The Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. This is the final book, the 5th book in the Heroes of Olympus series. It was absolutely amazing. Once again, a great finale. I know some people were disappointed with this, but personally, I loved it. And I'm really interested, because I know it was a series finale, but I'm really interested in like the Trials of Apollo, because I need to know, I need like closure over some of these characters. But Rick Riordan book, 5 out of 5 stars, as always. The next book I read was Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson, and oh my goodness, I sobbed. And then I was trying to talk about it later with my mom, and I just started crying, and I was like, I can't talk about this right now. I cannot. It is so, so sad. It follows this girl named Taylor, who, her family's not all that close. They used to spend every summer at a lake house, and when something happens, they stop going. But when they get some really bad news about her father, they decide to spend one last summer at this lake house. And it was just so hard-hitting, because the illness that her father was diagnosed with actually took my grandmother's life. So it was just like really personal and hard-hitting, and I could see where they were coming from. And just thinking about my own family like in this situation was absolutely crazy for me, and it was so sad but so good. And I just love Morgan Matson's writing. She really knows how to like capture you in, and I don't know, her books are pretty hefty, but I go through them so fast. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, and I definitely recommend it. Even though you will cry a ton, it's still worth it. It is so worth it. The next book I read was The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This follows a 17-year-old princess who is about to be in an arranged marriage, and she does not want to be, so she decides to run away. And what happens is 2 people end up chasing her. One of them is the prince she was supposed to marry, and the other one is an assassin that was sent to kill her because of this arranged marriage, and she ditched it. And so it's crazy. Assassins. Yeah. And you don't know which is which, and she doesn't know that they are like out for her. It's just so intense and action-packed, and I didn't really get into it until like the action started happening. I mean, like the romance was all cute and stuff, but then the action, and I was just taken aback, and it was so good. I can't say too much because spoilers, but I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to read the sequel and see where it's going, because cliffhanger. What is up with this? The next book I read is 90 Minutes in Heaven by Don Piper. This is a true story of life and death. It is about a man named Don Piper, obviously the author, who was in a car wreck, and he died for 90 minutes. And in this 90 minutes, he went to heaven. So this is all about his experience in heaven, his recovery, and just his journey, and figuring out why God sent him back to earth. And it is very hard to rate a story about a person's life, so I rated it on how it affected me emotionally, and so I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because it was really motivating and just amazing what this man went through. And like, my challenges seemed like nothing compared to what he went through. It was so amazing. And if you're interested in religion, or if you are religious, I definitely recommend picking this up. The reason I picked this up is because Don Piper came and spoke at my college, and after reading this and hearing him speak, I am so honored that I got to hear him speak. It is truly an amazing story about overcoming obstacles, and I definitely recommend it. The 17th and final book I picked up in the month of June was P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han. This is the sequel to All the Boys I've Loved Before, and it is so cute. I give this one 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I don't know why it wasn't 5 stars for me completely. There was just something about it, and maybe it's because I relate to Lara Jean like 100%, so all her pain was my pain too, and so it was just like really a lot, and some things that I wanted to happen didn't really happen in this book, but I am so glad it's a trilogy so it can get wrapped up nicely, because it did end where it's kind of like what's gonna happen next, so I'm just very excited that she's writing another book. Okay, so these are all the books that I read in the month of June. It is very difficult to hold all 17 of these books, and I feel very accomplished right now, but thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!